Should we start? Okay, I want to say something. And since some of you learned Daf Yomi, and there were just there's an interesting ritva, and it's a very potent Gemara. We're discussing in this simon if a bezdin has a right to punish shloi api Torah. This is incredibly important. I once spoke about it indirectly. The question is let me start this way. Let's say the question which the Rishonim had, the times of the Rishonim, the Jewish people had their own bezdin, a whole old law and order. They were terrified to go to the courts because the goyim were very happy if a Jew complained another Jew, they would just kill him. You know, like the medieval. So there were times they literally gave, the governor said, you could, Jewish people rule themselves, they have their own thing. The question was, what are you allowed to do? A person lives in the community, decided to Machal Shabbos, can we kill him? So there were many questions. One question, the time the Marama Blin, there was a guy who murdered someone. And the Sebastian wanted to know, asked the Marama Blin, that can we kill him? What should we do with the guy? You know what I mean? And we don't have, you have to remember, in order to kill someone, you need to aid him, and you need to warn him. And Torkei Dibber. I mean, so it will never be law and order if all this happens. But I want to start with the interesting Gemara, which we recently had Daf Yomi. The Gemara says there was a hunger in times of David Melech, and David Melech didn't know why there was a hunger. So we just had this Gemara. So the first year, David Melech said, probably the hunger comes. It says in Krishma, Sarta v'vadatim l'cherem, v'chura afi, v'lo yamutar, or dumo sit nesivilo, there won't be rain, there won't be food. There was a hunger, there was no rain. David Melech checked the entire Yisrael. There was no next year again was a hunger. So David Melech said maybe it comes from promiscuity, you say in English. He checked. And he saw there was, I'm sure every big nation has one or two, but not that the hunger should come. Third year, according to the Gemara's Gerasa, he wanted to know because maybe the people promised to give tzedakah barabim, they don't keep the word. There's a pasuk in Mishnah that the people promise something barabim, don't keep the word, no rain. He didn't find that. Finally, after 3 years of hunger, listen to this, 3 years of hunger, the Melech says, I'm going to have to ask the Urim and Tumim. The Urim and Tumim says, do you know why the hunger came? Because Noiv Ira Kahanim was killed, and the Nesinim were a sect who were Gedim, didn't have Panasa, and they suffered after Noiv Ira Kahanim destroyed because they were workers there, they were employed by Noiv Ira Kahanim. After destroyed, they had no employment, and because of them, this is what happened. Well, that's according to the Medrash. In the sin, called Gevain, the sin, yeah. That's according to the Medrash. In the Gemara, that's according to the Shalmi. But our Gemara doesn't say that. The Gemara doesn't say. The Gemara says they didn't have what to eat, and so they asked. So David the Melech tried. First of all, you see a Meiri Digazach from this Gemara. First thing you see the Gemara, when something happens, I love when people tell me to read on the internet. This rabbi said the reason this has happened. Everyone knows all of a sudden what happens in heaven. If David the Melech, the Rizal says Moshe Rabbeinu was the highest level of Nevuah. David the Melech was the highest level of Ruach HaKodesh. No one was zoichet to that level. They had the Ruach HaKodesh, but the highest level of Nevuah. He couldn't figure it out, and everyone else is so quick to figure it out. Remember this last war, everyone was busy. This is what happened. This is what happened. David the Melech didn't know. You have to ask the Urim and Tumim. So anyways, the Gevanim, the Nesinim, did not want to be appeased, and they said, we want blood for blood. So they wanted 7 of Shual's children or grandchildren should be hung. Anyway, so he got 7. So the Gemara says, how did he make 7? He lined them up. Imagine he lined them up, and they all went in front of the Oren. Wherever the Oren stopped was hung, and the rest wasn't hung.
How did they go into the Kodesh HaKadosh? Exactly how did
That doesn't say. That we don't know exactly. And the Yerushalmi doesn't have the gear. So same Yerushalmi you mentioned before, that 7 died. Yerushalmi says to put in front of Mizbeach, not the Uren. That's a question which everyone asks. How do you bring in front of the Uren? But first of all, that's a separate question. How the Uren, there was no Kodesh Kedushim yet. So this was a Mishkan Shir, and this was in Shiroi. No, it wasn't Shiroi. Not even given. It was a Givon. It wasn't given now. So after no, it was a Givon. That's a big machlekes. I remember that. But anyways, they talk about it. Chaim talk about this. So 7. So the question is, they hung 7. So all the Rishonim ask, how could you kill 7 people? Just because the Gevarim don't want to be appeased?
The grandkids.
Yeah, some were grandkids, but not show children, but the grandchildren, some. So this is very important. So the Ritva says, this is part of the Bezdin has a right to this halacha. Bezdin is allowed to preach and voice dunen shleimen adin. It's a very fascinating thing.
Can you explain that?
That means even though they don't deserve death, but Sanhedrin has a right, for they see fit, to kill people even though they don't deserve the death. This is really frightening. This is really, really. To the Melech held that has to be done. Untum said because they know. Untum told them because you have to appease the Gevarim. So the Melech begged them. Maybe the Pasuk says they said didn't want them. They said, "Listen, we'll give you gold, silver. We give you $1 million. We want blood for blood." Try to says, "Come on, we'll give each one of you $100,000. $1 million. Nope. We want blood for blood." That's why the Gevarim was excited. They can never intermarry to the Jewish people. So the Ritva learns, how could you kill? So what? So they don't want to be appeased. Too bad. What? They don't deserve death. So because this of the Chil Hashem, Sanhedrin has a right to kill Shloimeh. Let me just say, because if I mentioned this Gemara, I want to tell you another Moira di Gezach. The Gemara says, David the Melech davened, the Yonis, Mephibosheth ben Yonasan. Yonasan had a child called Mephibosheth, and he davened, Mephibosheth ben Yonasan should not be Kekoran. So this is a very famous din in Shulchan Aruch and Choshen Mishpat. This unfortunately happened in the World War II. They would say, we want, the Nazis used to love to play this game. We want 20, we want to shoot them out. You choose which 20. You would tell the whole camp. They had these horrific games where they played. But the din is, if you see a hezek coming to you, it's coming to you. Let's say it's a Rishalma, that and a Bavakama. It says, if I see water is coming into my field, it came into my. If I plug the hole, then the water is going to go to your field. I'm allowed to do that.
If the water didn't come yet, then you could.
If the water didn't come, so the Rebbe Lev says from this Gemara, he says this Gemara. The Gemara says, once the Oren caught them, you can't daven. But before the Oren, we're able to do. Before it comes, that means, there was, let's say, when the Mississippi raised, so the people were building banks. So the people were building banks. It's sure, if you are making sure, then the next, down the road, they get double. I'm allowed to do it. As long. But once the hezek comes, you cannot chase out the hezek, to someone else. So anyway, so the Ritva learns that this Gemara to kill comes in. So this halach is very important. So again, so the question was, can a bezdin punish shleipi Torah? Not the Torah. Let's say the robber stealing. So what? Some people rob, right? There's people who are con artists. So how do we deal with them? You know what I mean?
This bezdin making was on a bezdin of today.
Even bezdin today.
It even was on a bezdin.
Bezdin today, but that's a big down. A bezdin today means that the city appointed them as bezdin.
So what do you do with the gun of here in LA?
There's nothing we can do. So that's why in a gun of an eye, you told go to the police. Otherwise, there would be law and order. Okay, but they're talking about, all due respect, the RCC, in the beginning, they opened up, they thought they have this koyach. I said, what? You were not appointed. It's a business, no one appointed you. You appointed yourself. No one appointed them. They appointed themselves. It wasn't the community got together, we have one tax and one rabbanim, and one nothing, there are 3 people. In the world, there's such a business, a mediation, This whole, speak to lawyers, this type of, someone just showed me a contract that says that he's asked me he's allowed to sign it because if there's going to be a dispute, we go to mediation, a certain company. So, Halacha allowed to say is, you're not going to court, you're going to mediation by this and this company. That's it. The reason they do it, it costs less money and it goes quickly and, so, Halacha. So this is very important. Now this was... Rabbanut is appointed by the... Isn't it appointed by the people?
Appointed by the people because the government appointed
The government appointed. They're appointed by the people.
Yeah.
So let's start the Machaber. Okay? So Kol Bezdin, every Bezdin, Afele Eine Smuchen Be'aretz, Be'etz Yisod, there's no Smuchen, Im Royem She'am Peritzen Ba'averes, the Am is Peritzen Ba'averes, She Tzorich Shu, it's a Tzorich for the hour, Dunenbaum, Bei Misa, Bei Mummen. The Gemara says that they killed the guy riding on a horse. There was a guy riding on a horse, there's Vana Yivunim, very interesting. There's Vana Yivunim, this guy riding a horse, and they took him to Bezdin and they stoned him. The guy was Oine Issa de Rabbanan, because they wanted to show it started at Pritzes. They didn't want him. They don't have to want him. The Bezdin has a right to kill someone in order to enforce the Shmirah Shabbos.
And then there was a guy under the fig tree with his wife.
And a guy, yes, or a guy was at a fig tree, but his own wife. Yeah, well, they beat him, they get Malchus. Yeah, but that was. Yeah. But that's a man. No, also, but it's his own wife. And what was the Issa? It's just Pritzes. Right. And Moshe is sipping the tshuva. What Issa this is? This is, not so clear what the Issa is. The question was by the Moshe that when people have to give the zera, the people can have children, so you're not allowed to spill the seed. You just learn the Gemara. You can't just spill the seed and give it. Can't use an instrument. You have to do it being with your wife. Put it on the condom. There's the only way you're allowed to do it if you have to check your sperm. So the shoyel, as the Rav says, that there's a doctor who has a bed, so you're not allowed to do it. You're not allowed to be intimate with your wife and the guy knowing, even though this Gemara brings from other places, even though that it's a closed door. But I know you went into the room, you and your wife, I know what you're doing. That is also pritzes. And you see it's a real issa. He proves it. That means you should do it before you come to the office, go to a hotel, and doesn't have to know what when, and come to the office because they need it right away. They need it in 45 minutes. Right. They need it. That's you see, you got Malchus. And the chiddush to me is, because that Gemara to me a big chiddush, because what are people going to learn? Other people can do the same thing. I mean, you have to be a little bit cuckoo. You know what I mean? The hippies used to do it on stage, but since you don't hear it happening so often. I'm saying, you have to not be a poet. You have to be strange. You know what I mean? It's not a normal thing. You know what I'm saying? So Afa Piken, Sanhedrin held, we give a Malchus, because they held this was going to bring pritzes, whatever. It's not like Shabbos. I understand. You're going to ride a horse. This is going to do this is going to do this. But you see, this Bezdin has a right. And the Oiva Nissa Daraisa, hitting a person is an Nissa Daraisa. They're not allowed to. Oiva Alav.
A teacher can hit. So when people say that the whole Makan Manchin is from the skill, not from the someone says it.
Yeah, the question is what right does the Rebbe have to hit? The Gemara says. Yeah, but that's part of the chinuch that you're out to. Yeah. Yeah, but Bezdin, that is Bezdin doesn't have a chiyuv chinuch. That's a makim on shishloim in adin. The din is someone gets malchus. Where do you learn? That hit someone? Pen Yosef. You get 30 now. You hit one more. No. So I'm just saying, explaining that lamaisa. So that's what we learn. The Gemara says. So even though it's not a Bezdin smuchim, it's tzorich hashor. Bezdin has the right to do that. He says, Bei Misa, Bei Mumeh, Mein Kol Din Oynish. Ein Bedvar Eides Gemira. There's no Eides Gemura. We don't have Eides, we just have circumstantial evidence.
That means they might be killing the wrong person. Doesn't
Yeah. Well, not, we convinced it's true. We all know that O.J. Simpson killed his wife. There's no question about it. We all know that.
They had Eidos Gemura. That also
It's just, we don't need something. We don't need Eidos. I mean, I think his blood was there. There was so many, I don't remember the case exactly, but there's no doubt. And I have a guy who, a guy told me in this community, he has a first cousin, he's a Ganav. And he broke into his uncle's house. Imagine, the first cousin breaks into the uncle and he stole from the safe $100,000 on Shabbos. And because he called the detective, didn't know who did it, and it was his fingerprints on the safe. It happened on Shabbos, and his fingerprints was on the safe. What are you doing in my house? You haven't been in my house for who knows how long. He figured out the number. He asked one of the children, asked the number from the house, and he figured out the safe. A whole story. There's no question he did it, and they did. But Api Torah, he's allowed to go to the police. I says, if you don't go to the police, I told her, you are causing him. He's going to keep on stealing because the front people think you can't go to the police. There's never going to be law and order. See, but the Shulchan is talking about, they had a local bezdin, they had a koyach. As I said, the local bezdin had a koyach, and they could punish a guy, give him malchus, and whatever they could do.
Eidus Gemara means a woman or a child or other than testify.
Yeah, or Eidus Gemara means real Eidus.
You don't need Eidos Gemura. Probably means that you can accept a woman. You can accept a Yeah.
But it has to be they're convinced it's true. It's not.
What's the standard? But in our law, we have beyond a reasonable doubt. That's what we call them.
Yeah, but everyone has their own unreasonable doubt. You know that as a prosecutor. Every guy thinks they're, That's
the
also.
I'm saying, what's convinced is true? You say there can be so many things that indicate very reasonably that this is the person, and there's nothing reasonably that points he's not the person. Is that enough, or do you have to have something more?
That's what you need chachamim to be. See, today anyone. I was called for jury duty. Next to me, I said, Rabbi Shalom, I was speaking to these people. If these people judge, I'm so used to these people don't have common sense. What? Yeah, but I was sitting there with a bunch of who knows what. They were talking about the power. It was so not some zach, That's why, we needed to kill someone, we needed Sanhedrin. So you needed Shazayin Tivayir, and the Rishonim add, if you got to kill someone, you must make sure the good Lador knows about the case. Because we make sure that he's reviewed the case, and he knows, and, that. But I told you, times the Marama Blin, they killed someone. So the city had a right to do whatever they wanted. The city had a right. The government says, whatever you do, he was locked up in the prison by the Goyim, and the question was, should we kill him? Should we torture him? What was the question? So, bei moment, I feel him ein bedover Eidus Gemara alle, if you can't hit him, chafte moise al de Goyim, then you should get Goyim to hit him too. V'yesh, lehem koyach lahafke moin le'abdoi, ki ma'ashiroin lig de pirtzes ador. They could punish him, take away money, and take away his panosa. V'chol ma'aseh mi'yirshem shemayim. But says the dafke good lador or tive ir shehim chebez noleim. It has to be good lador, or the tive hareim, the whole city agreed. They voted for these people. You understand? You know what that means? Seven. How do you say 7 councils? It sounds like the councilman. So they had, and we voted, and people used to, they used to vote for people who are Tamid Chachomim, who are, they felt who are knows how to judge. So they're allowed to do that.
In general, the fact that these practices are no longer being practiced, how do you know?
Well, we can't have the practice because I'm not going to go to jail because I want to beat up someone who, look what happened to the guys who beat up people to give a get. No one's interested now. No one to go to jail because it's against the law. We're not hit someone because he robbed someone. In my neighborhood, there was a guy who was embezzling people money. What I'm annoyed was the Rabbanim who knew about it. They should have put up a big sign in all the bulletin boards that this guy's embezzling people money. Don't trust them with anything. But we cannot beat them up.
Right, so my question is, that, barring what you're saying, is that, is it indicative of the lack of kind of spirituality in our present time, and that's the reason why we're not doing
No,
these
it's not.
things?
It's just the way society is nowadays. We don't. It used to be in the times of the Shulchan Aruch Rishonim, the Jews lived in Bad Ashkenazim. They lived in a ghetto, almost all, and the government gave them the right to they should take care of the law and order. But in Israel, Hawat Koich does the Israeli Bezdin over there, the Rabbanut. You say, I was sitting in the Rabbanut, okay? And once, many years ago, 28 years ago, wanted to see what goes on. So there was a husband and wife that were arguing, and he was incredibly disrespectful to the judge. Judge gave him a knas, 600 shkolim. I was like,
What's that?
a lot of money.
Oh,
Shkolim.
I didn't know.
It was even then, it was an enormous amount because the judge warned him. He had an outburst, he would start screaming and insulting everyone. And as someone told me, they collect the money there. So what right? That's the right. You appointed us, you live here, you have a right to punish you because you can't run a court this way. But here in the States, probably they put you behind bars for a day, right? The guy's chutzpah to the judge, he just puts you for a day I mean, there has to be some. So you see, that is the koyach, but we don't have this koyach, so we have to report to the police. I mean, the Rashba says this. The Rashba says, in the Chuvas the Beis brings down, he only brings part of the Rashba. He explains, if it wouldn't be this, there would never be law and order. The Rashba says, you have the Rashba in front of you? Oh, you do have the Rashba. I want to show you the words.
I have the tool. Everyone has copies of this.
It's in page Hey. You have it? You have it inside the Kusev Harashba, B'Shiva. In the Beis Yosef. You have it there, yeah? It says, Royani, Shema Edem Namunim Eitzer Ha.
They changed it in the tool. It's not because of the Rashba.
Yeah, you have the tool, you know, on the right side it says Kusev Harashba. He says, Royani Shema Edem Namunim Eitzer Bridem Rishum Han Liknois Mummen the Knas Mummen or Enesh Agiv Kvi Mashir Lehem V'zei Mikir Me'oilom. That's the only way the world stands. Shema Tumamidem Hakal Adine Kvitza Metoire Shelase B'Mashinen Shetoire B'Chavulis Ekyoitzeba Nimtzoin Chorev. The world would be Chorev. If that's what the Rashba says. If we would follow exactly what the Torah says, the world would be Chorev. Chorev means destroyed. I mean, how he said it to me, Benjamin, when he was saying, man, 99% of the murders happen not in front of witnesses, ever. How are you gonna stop murder? If I need two Adam all the time, 90% of the murderers, there's no two witnesses, there's no Asura. He told me besides gangs. Besides that,
And even then, they're not kosher
not kosher, and they're not going to come. All right, but 90%, what you hear in the news, the guy murdered here, the guy murdered here, they found the murder, disappeared. It's always the relatives of someone. How do they find? They tracked him down, the blood, all these evidence. If we cannot do that, people will kill for no. Why shouldn't they kill? Someone asked me that a lie that there's a Yid who made a bank robbery. A Yid, no, not a religious Jew. It's a relative, a far relative of his, not here in Texas. And the way they caught him is the FBI caught him. They saw the video where he bought. He had like a shirt, and they tracked down the shirt, and they found out. And so he asked me, I said to him, "Apitoida, that's not called." He has a mask on. Yeah, but we probably had other evidence. I says that's. I told him a good marshal. If we would need two witnesses, here the video doesn't show his face. He had a mask on. They traced his shirt. They saw in the video what type of a shirt. They went to the whatever the FBI did the investigation. They find out. So that's the only way we can have law and order. There's never witnesses, clear witnesses that, This is what the Rabbi goes on. He says, the kala das are going to break the walls of the city. The world will be desolate. He has a long tshuva this way. That Maram Blin, that was the times of about 400 years ago, was asked about a murder case. And he also said there's no question that you should put him to death. See, he thought, the shoyel, the bezin, thought there has to be some aveda that lots of people do. They didn't have murder. Those days people didn't murder. It was the first time they had in 50 years. He says, not true. If you don't put your foot down now, people are going to murder other times. So that's what the Rabbi says. That's why we spoke about this when we spoke in the other part of Choshen Mishpat. The Rabbi, the other tshuva says, that's the reason you're allowed to go to the police. We're never going to have law and order if you can't. Okay, then he goes on. So I once explained this famous question that the Bezdin could only do things they only could do things what they see fit. The Hamid al Das. There was this famous question I was told by people. I forgot what law it is. They could force people to sell the property because a big who knows what store or what
Eminent domain.
Yeah, that they in the certain states, I don't know what the cities, they could force you to sell your property, and in order to someone come on the city decided they want to put up a big how's it called highway. This was a mall. That was the chiddush. They want to put up a mall, and it's going to be good for the city, and they could force you to sell. That was wow. So this is a famous question under the Mo over here too. That's what the Mekar. Mekar was, can we take away money from one person and tell him you got to get for the land because we need over here to build a mall? And it's going to help others. You don't want to sell it, it's too bad. See, they have to pay him the right amount of money. They have to pay. But but it's a terrible tercha for the guy. He's not obligated to pay Torah whatsoever. So we paskin the Remus, I'm going to see, says the Remus, Chen hag b'chomung shetive b'iram kebez nagu l'mak v'onshin hefke k'fi ha'minig. Apishia shcholkim, who disagree with this, the ein koich v'yative eile rak lahachlich atzim mashu minig mekedem. They hold you cannot force anything unless when they moved into the city, they had, how do you say in English, when you have the contract, where the company begins, the company makes a, they have it was written in the constitution of the city, unless it was the bylaws. That's the right word. They have to have the bylaws. That's so that we have a right. If it was not written in the bylaws, you cannot. That's some machlokes. Some hold you could. Some held that it's when you point to the bezin, that was part of it. They could have a right to do this. You cannot do this. So let me tell you a very, very famous story that happened. They printed the Rambam. I don't know if you know about this story. They printed the Rambam. You ever looked in the old Svarim, says there's a Chayrim for 10 years, you're not allowed to print. You ever noticed that? Well, those days. All those Haskamas were made in Beis. Why was that made? What happened was there was a guy printed the Rambam. And afterwards, a guy printed the Rambam with one of the case of Mishnah, whatever. And the guy lost a lot of money. They went to the Torah. And the Bezdin over there, Paskin, no one is allowed to learn from the Rambam till this guy sells all his Rambams. You're not allowed to buy, you're not allowed to learn. So the Gedolim, it's called the Zichron Yosef. He was the Gudel Aldor. He was the time of, right after the Beis Yosef. It was called Zichron Yosef. Gavram quotes him a lot. He wrote this fiery thing against that Bezdin. He says, first of all, who are you to tell this city what to do? let's say you guys live in LA and New York. New York printed a Shas and then they printed a Rambam. They in LA printed a Rambam. You know, they had a loss. Okay, but what is that? Well, you could tell us what to do. Because, and you're telling your mazik, people who bought it now cannot learn it. Even, he says, even from the same city, if this would happen, if someone printed it again, and now you tell me you can't learn from it, they have to lose the money, even that you can't do. Kolchkin, it's not from their city. How right do you have to tell, often this is a very famous Zichron Yosef, because this used to happen in Europe with people selling meat and selling these things, and Bezdin has no koyach, even in the same city. That means, according to the Ramah, the Bezdin cannot, the city, Zion TV cannot say, I want you to sell the property, but we need to build a mall over here.
Only for religious reasons.
It's only religious reasons, only a class, but because we decided it's good for the economy, a mall, and you're an action, you don't want to sell your property, that's not up to the Zion TV here.
It's based on the idea of who owns the property.
That's what the question in the law was.
That's the basic idea.
Because I was told, when I heard that story, people explained to me, not all states it's allowed.
No, it's eminent domain.
Eminent domain is the idea behind it, is that really the U.S. government owns all your property.
Yeah, but that wasn't the U.S. government who decided that, it was the local city.
But in China, the hefker, Beis, and hefker, it doesn't mean that you don't own it. You own it, but Beis has the power to take it away from you.
Yeah, but
That's what the question
right,
is.
that's the
I
question.
understand in Eretz Yisrael where it's your property. Right, it's a Yerusha, but whereas in Europe or Russia where it's a city, there was a city built and grew, whatever it is, and you rightfully have the things, look, you own this property. So maybe they need it for some other
About
purpose.
buying properties, only leasing it.
Theoretically, right, it really is the U.S. government.
But the hefker, Beis, and hefker is not based on that premise.
That's not, Hefke Bezdin has nothing to do with that. But the question was, can the Zion TV do such a thing? And this could be a great thing to build a mall over there. I think that was the question. They were going to force the guy, what?
It's a big Supreme Court case.
And they had the right. I remember I was so shocked. Because this is what the Shiurim says, you can't do such a thing.
Well, the concept behind eminent domain, though, is that the welfare of the community comes before the welfare of an individual. So as long as he's being compensated, somewhat, a form of it, you know.
But a Bezdin can do it according to their own law, even without a charter or bylaws, if it's for a shul, mikveh, whatever.
No.
To
To uphold religion, to law and order, that's the question. The Ramah has two opinions, and he paskins that they don't have that. The Ramah says that the Zion TV, the Bezdin cannot force a guy sell. In this case, sell the.
Let's say a shul's built. There's a mikveh that's built. It's a woman's mikveh. The guy's house exits directly in front. The Bezdin decides it's not sneeze. We want you to pay for the property.
I don't think it's.
Sort of idea.
I don't know if that's Chizika
No,
does.
the Chazik Adas in the Gemara is that people were breaking Torah.
So that's the confiscate. But I'm saying if there's no need, the guy's perfectly fine, but they need the property.
Yeah, but this is what the Ramah is saying. The Tauber Seir, we need the property, and we want to force you to.
For a mitzvah, it's
Yeah, but also. Yeah, that's not. Why is it limited to this? That's the question.
I mean, if there is, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If there's a specific need.
Yeah, I mean, you seen the 1 second. You seen the tshuva of the Pesach tshuva that brings down the Zichron Yosef was the tzorich mitzvah, but selling the Rambam, making a print the Rambam, and he held that they have no right. Even the same city would not have a right to do that. Even it was like a. Anyways, in short, what comes out that a bezdin there's such a koyach of zayin tiva, a local bezdin to punish people shleim and adin,
Even to kill them.
even to kill.
So where's the source for this din?
So the Rabban says, the Rabban Alatori says that's a din, kol yisor even zelazeh. What is the din that we need to make a Sanhedrin? It's a mitzvah zesa. But the mitzvah zesa, the Rabban explains, does just make us a bezdin. We are obligated, we get together as a community, just like you're obligated to have a cheder, obligated to have a shul, sefer Torah, to build a ladies' mikveh. The community is obligated. Community is obligated to have law and order. We are obligated. So so whatever the bezdin sees with all the zayin tiva, we have to make law and order. You understand that Jews get together, you have to build a ladies' mikveh, you have to have a shul. So, nowadays we live in a very funny situation because the rabbi has to run around. But those days, you moved in the community, everyone had to give money, was obligated, so to keep up the rabbi, make sure the mikveh works, make sure the kashrus works, and make sure the Zion TV, the council of the city, and they to make law and order.
So it's a midoraisa.
It's when the Raisa dig it in, right? It's when the Raisa the halacha that way.
So today, what order you have by the Goyish police?
That way, the goyim don't allow us to have our own law and order.
And they have law and order.
They do have law and order. Yeah. They do have law and order.
The police doesn't keep Shabbos.
But the law and order doesn't only mean. So how-
Law and order doesn't only mean Shabbos. Law and order means, that the Rashbi says, if there wouldn't be this halacha, the world would be charav. I've seen firsthand that people doing avlas and tell the guy, you can't go to the police, you're a Muslim. Guy told it to me. He did the avla, you understand, knowing he's going to pull the car out. Now the FBI came to this guy and he says, you're not allowed to snitch on me. Well, there will never be no law and order.
He said you're not allowed to snitch on me because it's rabbinically it's not allowed.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that is true?
No, it's not true. I said to the guy, he should go to the FBI and tell the FBI. I just told him, I told him, he warned you, and it's enough. Now you have to, he's not going to have to go to prison because he didn't even know what hit him because, he got someone to do something. He didn't understand what he was. The FBI knew that he didn't know what he was doing. The FBI was one step ahead of the game. Just wanted to know who is the...
So Zidana say to go to the police means say, we have situations, someone came to me recently, because someone took out a loan in his name, for example. It's total theft. Right? Made a corporation, a fake corporation, and I said the person, go to the police, said, no, I don't want to get police involved, but is there a positive...
He has to go, if he doesn't go to the police, he's going to let the guy's going to do it again.
He did police get away. I mean, you say people get away with those sort of things, so is he...
Yeah, he's obligated to go. I told this guy, I told the guy in the Borough Park, he broke into his uncle's house and he stole money. I says, he should sit. Otherwise, he's going to keep on doing this.
And sometimes the police do nothing because of whatever, because they're overwhelmed, there's too many cases, so in those cases.
At least he'll know that if the police was called, he'll be afraid that next time the police won't be that busy.
Yeah, they can't do every petty crime. It's much ridiculous.
Aren't there so many things that a Beit Din can do, even in our time?
No. Beis Din could do nothing.
Beis Din can tell two God-fearing Jews what they think the Torah says, that they could.
In an Orthodox, in an Orthodox community, a Beit Din would have so much power.
Well,
I'm not
they
saying
don't-
it's to stone a person, I get it, you can't do
No,
that.
that's what he just said. A frum guy frauded someone, took out a mortgage on his house. Mamish, well, this happened in New York too. I was told then. Mamish, he also was working this way, not go to the police. So I said to him, you should go to the police. That guy's going to keep on doing to everyone. Mamish did fraud. Well, what could Beis Din tell him? You're a fraud? Give him back? I don't have the money. Usually that's what happens. He doesn't pay the money. In New York, I remember such a story happened. How did the guy realize? The bank came to foreclose the house. So then the bank wanted to, then they realized that it was forged. The bank wanted he should come, say it was forged. I have a guy over here in the community. Told me that a guy forged his check. One of his workers forged his check. So I said, he went to make a police report. And the guy came screaming to me, man, why did you forge his check? Because I'm afraid he's not going to pay me. Well, everyone has the terrors. He didn't. He only went to the police, filed the report. I think he has to, but at least the guy was frightened. Otherwise there will be never law and order. Especially we talk about sexual abuse. There's no way what does Beis Din could do? I have a lady who told me that she went to court to get the restraining order against her husband. I says, very good. So a rabbi had promised. I tell the rabbi to call me. Who's going to watch you? Who? The Beslin's going to come there? I mean, there's nothing we can do. Okay. There's another. Then, anyways, the Episcopal Shul brings down who wanted to learn that that if even in a case where it's a loss for one and it's a benefit for the others, that if it's I don't know have a case exactly where it's going to help the Yiddishkeit in this, where it's going to people are going to stop doing things. Let's say, that's a good motion. In Lakewood, many years ago, there was a guy who owned a cheap, housing, incredible cheap housing. I don't know what, and what happened was they were prostitutes who rented the place, very cheap, and they mamish were after the people in Lakewood, local, walk the streets of Lakewood. And Beis in the city told me he has to sell it. He has to, to tear it down, and then he didn't want. So we could do nothing to him, but they mamish, they made demonstrations, and the guy came to me, a chutzpah, he says, yes, this is a, it's tzarich.
What does that mean?
The need for the city. So they don't have power, but they had a power to demonstrate and blast them away. I knew the story because he came running here and they didn't want to tell me why he's here. And someone told me, do you know why he's here? They were demonstrating it. And at the end, he capitulated to the pressure. But that is, if there would be a Sanhedrin, a Zion TV, we could force him, we could beat him up, we could make him sell it. Because he's bringing a mechshel. Let me just tell you another Gemara, to prove the point. The Gemara says, a guy had a chutzi eve and a chutzi shivcha. Remember this Gemara? We had it off Yomi recently. So the Gemara says, they forced him to send free. It means, let's say, Reuven and Shimon inherited a slave, a female slave. Reuven went and sent the free. So she's half free, half slave. She cannot marry anyone. She cannot marry a Jewish person because half of her is a maid. She cannot marry a slave because half of her is free. So when it says they forced the owner to sell her, now he did a Veda. You're not allowed to send a person free this way. Why? When it says because she was promiscuous and fooling around with other men. I have to lose money because you guys cannot control the Yetzer Hara? What's my headache?
Correct.
You understand what I'm saying?
And she's not allowed to get married?
She couldn't get married, but that's why she was promiscuous. Because she was half a slave and half a free person. And Beis men went, let's say if I be the owner, and forced me to sell, and Tosi says, even though there's not a sin, sending them free, because she was promiscuous. I have to lose out because you guys, she seduces men who can't control themselves. I hate to be so blunt, they can't keep the zippers closed, they say in America, but my headache. Why is that my headache? So you see, yes, that's the chid. It's your headache. We make sure Bezdin can force you because that's called a Tauber Seir.
In the case of Lakewood, if he sold the property, someone else.
Oh, they made him tear it down. They tore it down. Yeah, it doesn't help selling it. Doesn't help selling it, but whatever. I don't know the Metzias. I just heard. I don't know the details.
In that case, with the slave, when they say set free, does he have a right to?
Yeah, she has to give him money.
Okay.
Yeah, but she has money. That's the what it says. You know how these things go. She's going to pay him. As a note.
She buys herself.
Where does she have money? Right now she doesn't have money. When she'll have money, go collect it. A guy told me he went to a lawyer and had a great case. The lawyer says, after listening to him, he says, "You have a great case, but are you thinking you're going to collect the $70,000?" He says, "But does he have a house?" But the difference doesn't make. If you're not going to be able to collect the money, it's worthless. You're going to put $20,000 to collect, and you won't be able to collect. If your house, you have to research. You're going to be able to pay. Hey, your case is solid, fine. you'll win in court, but what does it help you? You think that... But you see from all these Gemaras that's a Beis has a koyach to help people not to sin. The Rosh has a myridig story. The Beis Yosef brings the Tshuvas Rosh. The Rosh was a story. There was a almana who became pregnant from a guy because she couldn't, she was a young almana, and the Beis Yosef brings the Rosh. So you know what the Rosh said they should do? Cut off her nose.
What?
Cut off her nose. Should be unattractive. Imagine he told us. Because why? She was promiscuous. It doesn't say she was still promiscuous. She became pregnant from a guy. Whole town knew that she was almana. She was lonely and her husband died.
So what if there was a Beit Din in some city that actually was able to follow through with some of these things? Wouldn't that become a problem? Wouldn't we look at them and say, what are you doing? You don't do these things?
No, we do these things. The Torah says that we don't do these things because there's nothing we can do. If we would cut off a nose of a lady, I'll be sitting in jail.
Okay, but there's a lot of, hold on, this may be a bad example, so forgive me that it's a bad, but a lot of the Islamic people who do these crazy things that
see, they don't.
Of the law,
No. See, this is done only because if a lady was mazana, it's a terrible thing. The reason the Rosh is to do it is the people to stop promiscuity. Not because every time a almana does it, she deserves this. The Torah says, you know what the Torah says? If a Jewish girl lives with a goy, it's just a lav. It's like in Chaza. The reason the Rosh said they should do it because the girls are going to learn not to be promiscuous.
But that's exactly why those Islamic people televise such horrible acts, just to instill fear into.
I don't know how the religion works. I'm just explaining there's no din in the Torah that you're supposed to cut off a nose. If a lady lives with a guy, she's over mechlokes. It's a deraisa, the rabban, a big mechlokes. There's a big mechlokes in the Shiurim. If a lady had to be with a guy, she has a guy, your boyfriend. It's a deraisa. But that's not the point. The point the reason did it just like a guy was riding the horse. Riding a horse, you normally, if Bezdin would only give him Canaan. But they killed him because they felt that this is very important, that people should see and be fair. Because
so then technically, if somebody was not Shomer Shabbat, and the Beit Din of some city outside of LA that didn't have really a good police department, they go and they kill him.
But you have to have
you
witnesses.
Would say, well, technically, we can't do anything about it.
Well, the Torah does say if you have two witnesses, the guy who's Mechal Shabbos, you do kill him.
Right. In other words, so what I'm saying is, if they did that,
but they did a mitzvah.
To you would basically say, well, technically that's right.
Right.
And
well,
we shouldn't go to the police or anything.
Yeah, it's true, but right now that doesn't apply. We need a Sanhedrin to do that. We don't kill anyone Chil Shabbos. What we do is to make sure if you live in this town, you want to live over here, this is the rules of the regulations of a town.
Right, but do you need the Sanhedrin just to enforce the law? Or is it that because there's
no, you don't need Sanhedrin.
The law is suspended?
No, we have Zayin Tivoir, the Jewish council, the city council.
So then technically it's okay
yes.
to kill a person for not.
If they are convinced, yes.
If they are convinced that this is going to stop.
Going to help. If they're convinced it's going to stop.
Oh, that's the only.
Yeah. It's stopping the breach.
Sometimes they don't act enough. I mean, say there are some cities that do have Batei Dinim of this sort. Lakewood has, Chicago has, New York has, Muncie has. They have different Batei Dinim.
Yeah, but let's say Muncie, they don't have a bezdin that the city, everyone made their own bezdin.
Dergadai Schwartz and Rabbi First and Rabbi.
Were they appointed by the city? No. I asked someone. They just like the RCC here, they got together.
They just had a situation where they forced the person, or they attempted to force a person to sell seminaries.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying. Let's.
another bezdin coming from Israel and tell them
Yeah, because let's say the Beis in Chicago, were they nominated by the city, or they became Beis? RCC here, 3 people got together and said, make a Beis. In the beginning, they thought they had this power. They wanted they said, I have to kick someone out of my shul. So I want to wait when this is going to happen to you in your shul. It happened to one of them in his shul who did 10,000 times worse, and he's davening there like a nice man. Yeah, they have no power. They were not. There were 3 people made a Beis. You could make L'havdil by the goyim. You could make mediation. You know, they made a Beis. They're not appointed by the city. If the city would work together, everyone has a vote, and they vote for a Beis. The city works together. They give and they pay them to be a dayanim. So you're right. They will have a power then. I don't know. In Chicago works that. I have no idea how the Beis in Chicago works.
That's right. I know they're very, very, very respected.
They're respected, we don't do it.
But there's nothing to do respected. That's in Muncie, the Mechainer was very respected, but it's not appointed by the city. As I said, they happen to be learned Chashem Mishpat for 20 years, and the Mamish, the whole world asks them, the whole America asks them, but that doesn't make him, they were not appointed.
So they really, I mean, you say, if you're not an appointed Beis Din, then you really lack power.
Yes, you lack power.
No power.
So in a way, based in today is like mediation. It
It's
requires
less than mediation.
Yeah,
Yes, it requires
parties
party to
submit.
sign, to submit. Of course. And they have no power. But what are you going to tell a lady that husband beats him? You go to Beis and say, don't hit him?
And the civil law, which does have the power, holds no moral authority for us.
Right, doesn't hold. But let's say this lady, you got a restraining order for 2 years now. Now the judge granted it. I understand there must have been a lot going on. 2 years restraining order. And he violated it, and he was put into jail. He sat in jail a few days. Right, if a person gets 2 years of restraining, it must be very bad, right? Judge doesn't, I was told they don't grant it so quickly, just like that.
That's authority.
And that helps. Who is going to protect the lady? Who?
Yeah, of course, in that example.
Right. So that we don't have our own power, so unfortunately, we need the secular power. But if they would be Zayin Tiva'ir, they could say, if you ever go close to the house, we're going to fine you so much money, and they will take the money away from him. They made knossos. Let's say you live in Bnei Brak, right? And you park on the wrong side of the city when they're cleaning the street, they could impound your car. And, a guy told me he didn't know, he didn't chap that he first moved to LA. He comes out, the car's not there. He had no idea where it was. By the time he went to pick up his car, it cost him $250. No, God. So you do it in Bnei Brak. Who gave you the permission? This is the Zayin TV. We decided whoever requires will move the car, impound it, and charge you rent for each day, or each hour, whatever it is.
So it's very, the idea of Beis Din or rabbinical authority is the idea behind it. To what extent do rabbis have the obligation to exert authority? We say here that we recognize we don't have power, but there is a power. We say if the Rabbanim of LA were to get together, the big 10 Rabbanim of LA got together, and they issued an edict on whatever subject.
They have to be appointed. No, they might listen, but they always, when a person,
They can put conditions.
No. They would listen when it's good for them. The second, for one person is not good, it's not, if you appoint it, the city will appoint. They have a voting power. We'll appoint. And what would be our power? We have no power. Let's say we say that make such a Beis Din, if someone does an avla, someone is a fraud, we catch him doing fraud, we do something. What are we going to do? We have no power. We're going to arrest them. Well, what can we do?
There's a power in the sense not to be extrajudicial, meaning say to take out the secular justice system, but to say, listen, whatever it is, we see an issue going on, whether let's say it's kashrus, to take it simple. See, there's a kashrus issue going on amongst the frum community. The various communities in Los Angeles, our Rabbanim are coming together, and we're saying this is how our kashrus is.
Because
And we won't accept otherwise. And that's a very, say, in that sort of scenario, I think the Rabbanim do have a power because they can influence the
but only
citizens.
by virtue of the fact that the people are submitting.
Even if we're not submitting.
But how?
Because the Rabbanim would say, we won't do a wedding, we won't do a bris.
Yeah, but who's not going to do? But you have to need the caterer.
We won't allow, we won't give an aliyah, we won't give.
Yeah, all right. So that's the problem.
There's still a power.
Very little. Very little. No, Marshall, woman in New York, it's powerless. For 40 years ago. A lady doesn't want to come to Beis. What are you going to do? You're not giving an aliyah? What are you going to do? The lady doesn't want to take a get. You have to get a het to Meirabana. The guy doesn't, it's a big tercha to get a het to Meirabana. There's no reason, Beis says there's no reason she doesn't want to take a get. And I remember a story. There was a lady she says, I don't want to be with my husband. I don't want to grant him a get. So he started to work on het to Meirabana. So someone told him, he has a very simple idea. He had an Italian, met her at the train station. It was the middle of the winter, poured a bucket of cold water overhead, and the next day she arrived. He says, well, that's going to cost me $20,000 to get a het to Meirabana. Well, Italian for $5 did it for me.
The same thing with the guy here. People here.
But otherwise, no, but what could you do? Honestly, there's no, and over here too, you're not going to give him a aliyah. So go to another shul. I'm not going to shul. When the Elchonon kicks in, what are you going to do? We are very, very limited. Nothing we can do. The Shulchan Aruch says in Hilchas Halva, I once quoted this, but the Ramah says they made a tick in the city. If a guy doesn't pay the loan, we kick out the children from the cheder, and we don't sell them meat, and we don't sell them just bread and water. It's not going to work nowadays. You think he's going to go to Costco and buy meat? You could buy on FedEx, you could buy kosher things. You could buy anything already today. We have no power. What's the name did it? Shlomo Miller did it in Toronto. Who's from Toronto? You're from Toronto. So there was a guy who didn't pay his loans. So you got all the yeshivas together, and Chabad the Yiddish yeshiva too, and they said that we're not accepting any of his children. They knew that he's going to try. So he went to Chabad, running into Chabad. Chabad says, we were told by whoever the runs there, we can't accept your children. As soon as he saw that, he started paying his loans. That was only koyach. They knew food they're not going to have. He has a bunch of children who's got to go to school. Not to send his children to school, that he wasn't going to do. What do you have? I heard from you guys that the Lubavitcher didn't want to listen to the Beis and Karnites, and didn't want to listen to the Rebbe, right? Something like that. Yeah, well, when a guy gets the Elchonos, it's a galt, na Lubavitcher chassid, and didn't listen to the Rebbe. Yeah. So you see, now here you have Lubavitcher. The Hamas, Lubavitcher is not Satman. Satman, he wouldn't have lasted. It would have not lasted a day. He wouldn't have lasted. No, I'm just saying we are very powerless, extremely powerless.
Powerless with koyach. We have influence.
But you see, this guy.
Influence is only with good people, not with bad people.
Yeah, but that's normally the problem. Bad people. That's usually where the problem starts. That's this guy. He held himself a Lubavitcher chassid, but he wouldn't listen. And I mean, that's where the trouble starts. So which starts with one.
The small communities upstate New York, like U Square, that are all Yidden, do they have?
They beat you up if you don't listen.
They have.
Yeah, they beat you up. A guy went to one master about the sexual abuse. They want to beat him up. The whole family left Square. They quickly moved on.
Lit some guy's house on fire.
But that wasn't from sexual. There was a sexual abuse case. I read about it, and someone showed me. They sent me, where the guy said the whole story that he went. They're not allowed to go to therapy. They took the child to therapy, and the therapist said that he was molested, and he knew that if they're going to find out, they sent this child to therapy. They picked himself up, moved to Flatbush, because they knew they were going to beat him up.
They were going to beat him up
because they hold they're not allowed to go to therapy, and they hold that I don't know what they hold about sexual abuse. They have blood on their hands, Square, unfortunately.
So it's not for a base thing.
So the Beis has cuckoo ideas.
They have a power structure.
But over there, it's a communist.
It's not a base and power structure.
It's not a Beis. It's a terrorist.
Power.
A terrorist. It's not a Beis. It's not based on anything. You can't go for help. Why can't you go for therapy?
No, in a lot of these cities, let's say in Israel, they have, Chabad has it, and I know in Kiryat Sefer they have it, where they don't let you move to town unless you know, they got like a VOD and you gotta like pass their requirements. Seriously.
Yeah, most communities have a committee.
I think never moved to a
100%. You will not be allowed in. But
I mean, Alden, how can you not? I can't buy an apartment there.
No, that's I don't know.
I don't know how it works. You have to know how it works.
They have like a committee.
Probably when they build the city, they had the legal.
Buy property unless
Why
you,
was-
what do you call it?
Because in Yerushalayim, they don't have the
If you're
power.
safer, you could move there, but if you don't pass their, what do you call it, your kids are not going to not one of the schools. That's the way they do it.
Oh, okay.
Control, that's what they keep.
They show about the schools
I know, but my brother-in-law lives there.
in Kiryat Sefer.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, but that they probably have the community working together at school. You know, but you could buy property. I mean, in Yerushalayim, there was a big fight. A big fight. What happened was there was a family with a bunch of boys, and a seminary bought a building next door, a girls' seminary.
So the family got upset.
Got upset. You know, the Beis could do nothing. The Beis could say, you know, sorry, you know, you have boys. It's my headache that you have your boys. You know, take care of your boys. I mean, you know, Halacha, there's nothing wrong. You made such a fuss. You know,
Is there a halachic eleport? What if but they didn't make a mistake? They're doing the wrong thing.
the Noida B'Yidus says that if a Gedolim, Noida B'Yidus has a tshuva. Beis wrote the first then. So the Noida B'Yidus says yes, they have to tell the Gedolah Adon on what basis they pass in that way. Yeah. They can nowadays. You can't say.
When you don't make a mistake, everyone tells you you made a mistake.
Right,
But imagine when you make a mistake.
We can't all agree with the Gedolei Hadar.
Yeah, well, we do know certain people know Choshen Mishpat very well. I mean, it's accepted. Let's say Mechainer, everyone accepts it. There are people that's so famous, for expert in Choshen Mishpat.
So does a litigant have a right to go to, let's say, the Muncie Beis Din?
Yeah, but they write into the what's his name that even if we make a mistake, they write into the Shtura Beririm. They write into it clearly that in case you make a mistake, you always accept it.
And you're stuck.
And you stop.
That's on a regular entire between small minutes, but when we're talking about a Beis Din like this, where they have power to do something.
But yeah, well, it doesn't say it. If you
When you say, does the Beis Din do it without hearing from the other side?
no, they have to hear. They have to hear both
So
sides.
they hear both sides, meaning say that they're hearing circumstantial evidence on one side, they're hearing the defendant on the other side,
Right.
and then does the defendant have a right to appeal?
Yeah, well, it doesn't work in the city. No.
I don't assume when the guy don't know what's going on.
Right,
No.
that's what I'm saying.
No, in the city, no, there's nothing to appeal. I mean, see, today when they appealed the sentence, they found that the part of the trial he violated something. That wasn't mean they didn't do it. He did it, but you know what I mean? Some loophole they found. You know how these things go. Doesn't mean that they didn't do it. Okay.